I'm pleased to be joined by Kansas Jayhawks head coach Lance Leipold. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing well, RJ. Hope you're doing well.
I am, sir. I am. I got to ask you. I'm looking at the schedule, and it's unique for a number of reasons, not the least of which is we got some new Big 12 opponents for you guys to play, but also we're going to get to see you play. Is this right? 4 games at Arrowhead and 2 at Mercy Park?
Yes, sir. It is. It's not just on the field, I guess. The transformation of our program. Obviously, our administration has done a great job and moved very quickly, and the renovation and really tear down of a part of David Booth Kansas Memorial Stadium and really to keep that project on schedule. As we know, that can be a balancing act, and it's a tight timeline. So to get ready even for the 25 season, just made a decision, and we've had 2 great partners at 2 different places. Like you said, it'll be unique, but I think it's one that our players are really excited about.
I got the price tag here at around 300 million, getting a lot of that in private donors and folks really getting behind what it means, not just KU basketball, but KU football. What does it mean for you to know that you got this kind of momentum and they got to see a 9-win season last year, a bowl victory? It feels as if they're investing in a future that's going to be really bright.
Yes, I think things have kind of really, I don't know about ahead of schedule, because I don't know if we really, arrival at the time of the hire, RJ, as you're well aware of, all those things made it very unique. But what I found out upon my arrival was we got a lot of passionate people that have been starving for some success on the football field, as well as supporting our basketball program and our other sports. And once we were able to give them a taste of success, I think things accelerated. I think for a long time, through past administration and coaches, it's always been acknowledged that the stadium needed work, and there are things that needed to be updated, things that we were desperately behind in the Big 12 and across the country, in facilities and other things. And really the energy and leadership of Travis Goff and as athletic director, and our chancellor, Doug Girard, is really, I think it's the best alignment I've ever been a part of. And we kind of hit this thing all together and really made some things happen that have kind of put this project. And you mentioned, about 300 million. I think we'll hit even far north of that when the whole project of what's going to be done is completed. And I think it's really going to give us a chance to keep this thing on firm footing and build it for years to come.
Coach, I got to tell you, I'm paying attention last year, and I'm looking at this program in Washington. And they got a head coach who got a small school background, won some national championships. They had a dynamic quarterback who move around and make some plays. They had a tailback that came on strong toward the second half of the season. They had a defense that was good enough to keep them in every game. And I got to tell you, I'm looking at you and your background. I'm looking at what you got, Jason Bean and Jalen Daniels, looking at Devin Neal, looking at some playmakers at wideout, looking at what you had on defense. I got to ask you, how close do you feel to being able to compete on that sort of a level? I understand getting to the conference championship being a big part of that, but 9 wins versus 11. And then we're thinking about, hey, what else can you do here, Coach?
Well, first of all, it's very flattering on multiple things I could touch on there. I think, as you say, we return a lot of players and production in the skilled area. I think a couple years back, you and I did one of these, and we were talking about being the youngest Power 5 football team in the country, and really one of the youngest and third youngest overall. And now all these players have continued to stay here and develop and do those things. That's very exciting. I look at last year's schedule, and in 3 of the games we lost, we had leads or had opportunities, and we were playing with our third quarterback, true freshman walk-on at the time, and Cole Ballard. So we had opportunities even for more, but as we know, the margin of winning and losing, especially in our conference right now, is so small, and you have to play well. You have to stay healthy. But with expanded playoff and those things, a lot of great things are on the horizon that can happen for a lot of teams. And we hope to be one of those that can be in the mix. But we've got a lot of work to do in the meantime. We have some holes to fill in some other places, and we're exciting. But you mentioned Kalen DeBoer, and I have great respect for Kalen, because when I was coaching Division III, he was winning those national championships at the NAI level, and we used to be at our national convention together at these banquets, and he and I would stand in the corner because and nobody would talk to the small school guys, and we just were sitting there in the little. So we kind of struck a friendship from there, and we kind of chuckle about it today that we've been fortunate to get to this level, and but never want to forget where we came from.
I find it interesting, Coach, that you all have really built your programs not dissimilarly, but continuity being one of the biggest parts of it, being able to not just keep the roster intact, but the coaching staff intact. And I got to ask, Coach, your name is coming up every single time we have one of these coaching positions open elsewhere. What is it about Kansas that has made you feel comfortable in a place you don't want to leave?
Well, as you know, and you've been doing this a while, and you watch. Well, there's two ways. If you win enough games, they talk about you for every job, and if you don't, they talk about you now till the season starts that you're on the hot seat to get fired. So, I don't know what the guys that get to stay in the middle, but it's flattery. But there's certain jobs that just I believe in fit. I believe in our staff. If you know football and you can coach young men and motivate them and mentor them, and you treat people right and you're transparent and authentic in what you're doing, you can coach at any level. And the things that we've been able to do as a staff now, we did lose a couple staff members, lost our offensive coordinator, Andy Kolnicki, was with, we were together 11 years, but we think we found a great fit in Jeff Grimes, who most recently was at Baylor and had success there when they won the league. So, but staff continuity and trust in doing that. I've been very fortunate to have a staff that's been wanting to stay. But back to the job itself is I think there's still many things that we can do here. And I think the job fit us from the day we arrived, and the challenge and how we go about it. And I think our players have embraced it. Like I said, administratively, and our fan base have welcomed my wife and I and our family, and we're happy. And sometimes that's what it should be about. And as we tell our players, in today's world of portal and opportunities and NIL, is that if we make all our decisions strictly based on money and transactional relationships, I don't know if we'll ever be fulfilled or happy. And if I'm going to say that to our players, I better make sure I'm walking that walk myself.
A lot to pull there, Coach. And I want to start with talking about your offense. I'm high school quarterback, so you have to forgive me, but I'm looking at Jeff Grimes coming in. I know what he did at Baylor. I also know what he did at BYU, right? Particularly, I know with Zach Wilson being one of those guys, but Brady Christensen on that offensive line, and then taking it back to LSU with what he was able to do with guys like Lyle Collins. Soft-spoken man, but one hell of a play caller. Why do you think he was a good fit for what you're trying to do at Kansas?
Well, I was so extremely impressed with him, even the first year we played, and what they did with their pick to finish near the bottom of the league, probably maybe right above us, I think, that first year, and they won a championship, and they took an undersized center that we had at Buffalo named Jacob Gall, and he started a couple of years for him. I'm like, this guy knows how to work with some of the type of guys that we've worked with. That was one big thing. I really like what they did offensively, and I thought it could mesh in well with what we were doing. And that was one of the things we talked about was, I don't want our players have to learn a whole new system. I want it to be a blending. I wanted to have little tweaks of that, but I really like what we've been doing. I think it's exciting. I think we have a lot of people involved, and I wanted to do that. And Jeff really embraced that. I think also, we named Jim Zabrowski our quarterback coach, our co-offensive coordinator. Jim was our offensive coordinator at Whitewater my first 3 years, did an outstanding job. He's done a great job with our quarterbacks, and he called the plays in the bowl game, and we had over 400 yards in the first half of that game. And I think with Jeff's line experience and other things that he's done, and Jim's we'll probably have a little more input than he had in the past in the passing game. I think we're going to, be as explosive as ever if we can keep everybody healthy.
Well, that was the next question, Coach, is what is it this year that you might be changing around injury prevention in your strength and conditioning? I know winter training this time of year, everybody's going pretty hard because they're trying to put it on right now. But I got to look at a guy like Jalen Daniels and think if he can play for an entire year, be healthy, what is Kansas capable of? And that goes for your entire roster. Is there something that you want to change about how you're keeping your guys healthy the rest of the year?
again, our Matt Gildersleeve, our head strength and conditioning coach, does an outstanding job, and it's unfortunate some of the things Jalen's gone through, but it's been slightly different things, and but on the whole, other than some that are more on the preventable, unpreventable sides, high ankle sprains, things like that. We've been a pretty healthy football team, and knock on wood on that. Devin Neal had his healthiest season in his 3 seasons with us. Our receiving core was available every game, as were all our tight ends. I think our secondary, Mello Dotson, who had a heck of a year, missed parts of a couple games, but was available for the start of all of them, and those things. So we're pretty decent there. But again, depth and plugging the hole. We had Austin Booker, who replaced Lonnie Phelps a year ago, who declared for the draft. Austin comes in, has a great year, first team all conference, and he declared for the draft. So we're going to have to find that edge rusher that we're looking for on that side of the ball. We lose a lot of snaps and experience and production from Kenny Logan in the safety spot, but I think we have 2 guys that have played a fair amount, but then the depth there will be very competitive. And then the steadiness and leadership and really getting people lined up all the time, and Rich Miller in the middle is another one that we're going to have to make sure we address as we go through spring football.
Again, Coach, it's going to be a unique year with the sites that you're playing with, and also with some expectations about what Kansas football ought to be in the Big 12. Got to talk with Coach Dykes about basically the same problem I think you're going to have, which is with Texas and Oklahoma being on the way out and knowing what the membership looks like in 24. How are you fielding these questions from Kansas fans? They're going, hey, I think we're supposed to be winning this conference from here on out. I think we're supposed to belong in this conversation every single year.
Well, I think the balance, like you said, is going to be really exciting. I think I really didn't know how I felt coming from the MAC, where we had divisions and things, and then we come to the Big 12 and you play everybody, and now we're back to not playing everybody to try to decide. So that's going to be, as we know, who do you play, who don't you play, when do you match up, how do you match up, and when is that matchup happening? So there's a lot of things that'll be probably talked about on shows like yours and other things, or through social media, but it'll be exciting. But I think it gives us that balance. I was kind of alluding to earlier those losses that we had. I had a booster come up to me and talk about that we could have been a 10-2 football team. I said, yeah, but it sure beats being 2-10 like we were a few years back, But our fan base is excited, and you want increased expectations. It gets excitement, it gets things, but I think one thing about that, though, is in the walls of our buildings, we cannot forget what got us to where we were. We've got to be where our feet are at, and we've got to take each day with the same type of attention to detail and work ethic that helped put us in this position. And we talked about it some last year, RJ, at the start of the season. I say, there, to me, as the head coach, there was going to be a fine line between confidence and complacency. You can be very confident in what you're doing, but you can't be complacent about the little things that help get you there. And we had 18 penalties in our bowl game, and that's something that I really haven't even got to the team yet to touch back on.
Hold on, Coach. You were number 14 in penalties allowed before that game. Like,
I know.
Pretty disciplined.
I know. And I'm like, where did it all go? And as a head coach, you take responsibility for that. So those things better than I do. But yeah, we've taken pride in that, because we always felt, our margin, is very small we have to play well to win games, and we can't beat ourselves. So, but I go back to that, when you have as many returning players at some key spots, it's the little things, and not to pick on one particular player or anything, but you watch the AFC Championship game and you look at a penalty and a ball security issue, and it changes a game very quickly. And those are small things we've always talked about, and we got to make sure that though we have productive players that have opportunities, hopefully at the next level, we cannot forget some of the things that got us to where we are.
All Zay Flowers has to do is hand the football back to the referee, go back, get your first down. All he has to do is continue to go toward the end zone, and maybe they win that football game. I understand what you mean, and you never want to be that player making that sort of play that's going to hurt the team. But, Coach, I just wanted to put this in here. Coach Saban used to say that this year's achievements are next year's expectations. And I think that's what you're starting to deal with more than anything else. I'm also looking at a guy like Devin Neal, a dude that I think is very important to your program because of what he did in high school, choosing to go back to or stay home, right? And he's gone from 1,000 yards, I think, in 22 to 1,280 in 23. At this age of name, image, and likeness, and guys getting paid to do this job, for lack of a better term here, but also having the sort of star you got at that tailback position. Tell me what it is about his character that has allowed him to flourish, and one of the reasons that he has wanted to stay with you at Kansas going into this all-important 24 season.
You know, I think it's the complete makeup from it when you meet him. He's a very level guy and everything. Now he's a competitor and he wants to do it, but he's humble in how he goes about it, but he's still hungry and determined. And I think some of the things that helped him decide to want to stay, obviously his family and others are extremely important. But I thought, you know, many times, and I don't want to get too far off here with you, but RJ, I think you know this, like a place like Kansas, when you recruit locally, you spend more time talking about the past of why it hasn't worked instead of talking sometimes with recruits and families and coaches about where you want to go. You're talking around things that you weren't even a part of. And you're trying to get things back to a clean slate so somebody will take a look at it. When you have a guy like Devin Neal, he looks at it, he knows it, but he sees that he can be a difference. And he doesn't sit there, yes, he knows, but if this, and this happens, I can be impactful. I can be impactful to my community, to my, university, and to a football program for years and years to come. And I think he's really embraced that. And of course, there's things with name, image, and likeness, being a local guy, that you have an opportunity. And I think some of those things have come his way. And that's one of the things that, as you know, player retention isn't always to hit the portal. It's also then keeping them to understand between draft evaluation and other opportunities where the big picture is. And, I've said this to Devin, I've said this to Travis Goff, I've said to others, I sure hope that when Devin Neal is done playing, that he is somehow connected to the University of Kansas as an ambassador or something for the rest of his life, because I think he's that type of person. I think he represents everything that is still excellent about college football and about what guys do and do through work ethic and humbleness and hard work.
I'm pulling for him, Coach. I look at Devin and I see what Ollie Gordon was able to do at Oklahoma State last year, and that's not out of the realm of possibility for him. Last one I have for you, Coach, is I would have these sorts of conversations with Matt Campbell at Iowa State when he first got there, and I would tell him, hey, when people tell you, hey, we could have been 10-2, and you're thinking, hey, it's better than being 2-10, I just say you're welcome. Like that's it. Like we're not at the bottom anymore. We're competitive in every game that we play. And people have high expectations for us. And as a fan, that's all I can ask for, man. I love to be in a competitive ball game against a team that I think I can get a win against. And every time I watch Kansas football, I'm having a good time. Kansas coach Lance Leipold, thank you so much for giving us some time here on the #1 college football show to talk about the 24 season. Coach, I hope we get to talk again very soon.
Always enjoyed, RJ. Thank you very much, and appreciate everything you do for college football and the Big 12. And your knowledge and understanding of our program really resonates with me each and every time we talk. So I really appreciate it, and reach out anytime.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If you like what you've seen, consider subscribing to the #1 college football show on YouTube, the Fox Sports app, or wherever you get your podcast.